Hi, neighbor. I'm Isabella Riley.
And I'm Taylor Holt. Today we take a look at student and faculty research at App State. I sit down and talk with Dr. Daniel Caton about his in-depth studies of the mysterious Brown Mountain Lights. Then Dr. Tanya Coffey joins us in studio.
And I'm joined by Drs. Culpepper and Dr. to discuss their award-winning research in biology and fermentation scientists. But first, this week, App State shared in the loss of undergraduate student Chad Durrell due to COVID-19 complications. In loving memory of Chad, we're dedicating this episode of Hi Neighbor to him and his family. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends. Please join us as we say, Hi Neighbor.
Hi neighbor, I'm Taylor Holt. Join me while I speak to Dr. Daniel Caton about his research project on the Brown Mountain Lights. Thank you for meeting with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to do it.
So could you tell me a little bit about your research project?
Yeah, I've been studying these since the mid-1990s. And I have a colleague of mine, my observatory engineer, Lee Hawkins, who helps me, especially with the technical aspects. And we made a lot of trips out to Brown Mountain Light. I actually got interested in it from a student who was in my intro astronomy class, and he happened to mention that he had a video of the lights. I was never able to get that video over the years I tried. He graduated and left, and I just never got it. But we went out to Wiseman's View, one of the viewing locations, and in the daytime kind of looked around, and then Lee and I started going out, you know, and staring into the darkness for a couple hours and not seeing anything, coming back, and then we kept doing that for dozens of trips. Really didn't have much that we ever saw visually, and that was getting kind of old. It's 1 hour trip each way. So I wrote a proposal to get some equipment from the University Research Council. I mean, where else are you going to get funded for something like this? Not the NSF. And so we set up a couple of cameras. Morganton, Burke County had a seminar on these, and I was a speaker, and another guy was a speaker, and I met, we developed a team from people in the audience, and we've been working on it. Team includes professional geologists in the area and nature people who do nature hikes for kids and stuff. And so, you know, we've been looking at it, and we've been running these cameras for several years now, and we really didn't catch much until the night of July 16, 17. I say it that way because the date changes overnight. On camera one, this was on a house. This was what we saw. This is just one of the many images, about more than 1,000 images overnight. One 30-second image after another that I build into YouTube videos and then post online. They're public. And so the actual video looks like this, and this is Brown Mountain. These are bright lights of Lenore and Hickory and other areas. So we're looking east. This is this low obscure peak is Brown Mountain, and you'll see that our light appear right there, and it goes away. Notice the flash of lightning. I've had a theory that it's ball lightning, which has been observed for more than a century. And we don't know how that works. How does nature make a confined chunk of glowing gas, there it is again, and not have that gas just immediately dissipate? Okay, so that's where we are. And we haven't really seen anything since that July. It's been a long dry stretch. I thought I had something this morning, though. This was the last image of the night. Whoa, what is that? You know, that was what woke me up this morning. And so I saw this, you know, this streak here is just the camera saturating. This is so bright that electronically the signal gets into adjacent pixels, and that's well known in digital cameras. But this little streak here suggested maybe it was a meteor that was coming at a low angle, and so I posted that, and with that comment, maybe this is a meteor, and someone who follows my YouTube channel sent me this link. Trucker Beetle Bailey here. He had seen this. So this is a dash camera on this truck driver. wow, there it was, a fireball. And his timestamp 6/24/44. That was during our exposure.
You mentioned that you had that the cameras took pictures every night. How many cameras do you have, and where are they positioned at?
Okay, so we have two locations. One of them is, they're both, one of them is sort of a family, not my family, but a family of a physician in Hickory, I think, or Lenore. They have a family vacation home up that looks over 181 and from Ginger Cake Acres. And they allowed us to mount this camera in this sort of crow's nest room, upper little extra sleep area room right at the peak of the house. On the gable we mounted this camera. And the other one is at another weekend kind of home of a guy that lives in Charlotte. I don't know, maybe he's retired there now, I'm not sure. And he allowed us to put a pole up and mount a camera. We went back and added a second camera to the one that I showed you here. So we had two cameras, because if you have an anomaly, you may not be sure if it's real, or is it a problem with the camera. So if you have two cameras and it appears in both, then it's real. And that one that I showed you that appeared off and on over about a 20-minute period was seen on both cameras. Since then, one of them died. We don't have any money to fix it, and actually that particular technology is no longer available. So we're kind of out of cameras. We're down to two and running them every night. These are repurposed cameras from our observatory that we replaced with better ones out there. And so these are just sitting on the shelf, and we put them on this project. Those are automatically pushed to a server at Appalachian. And then the next morning I download them into my own machine and build them into a YouTube video with good old Movie Maker and post that on YouTube. So
I bet that's a lot of pictures to look through. I think you mentioned this earlier, but what do you personally believe that the Brown Mountain lights might be? Because I know there's a lot of speculation about different things they could be.
yeah, I would say that something in the ballpark of 95% of the reports are misidentified ordinary objects. So people are clueless about the nightscape. They don't know. They're inside watching TV, they're online, they're staring down at their phone. We have light pollution. They're disconnected from the night sky. Nobody knows what they're looking for. So when people want to go, and I encourage them to go, because we still have a fraction that are real, whatever that means, I tell them, well, first go to a place at night, maybe on the Parkway, that's not a reported viewing location, but you can see some lights down in the valley and some town lights maybe. See what the real normal nightscape looks like. Now go to one of the locations, because generally I think people want to see the lights. They go to a location to see the lights. They see some kind of lights and they leave thinking they've seen the lights, because there are people who report they see them every time they go, which is clearly not possible. I began to think it was possibly ball lightning, which are these soccer ball sized globs of light that suddenly appear indoors or out. They float around a little bit laterally, and then they dissipate in a time scale of 5, 10, 20 seconds. So this could be what it is, in which case we don't understand that. Like we don't know how nature does that. How do you make a glob of gas that glows? It doesn't just dissipate by natural physics immediately. It doesn't make sense. And so if we can study this, we may be studying some interesting physics.
Nature is truly crazy. What do you think your end goal is with this research project, or do you have one?
Well, it's been a moving target. I mean, originally we set these cameras up thinking, well, we'll record some lights. We'll try to correlate them with maybe geomagnetic activity. I log every 3 days. I'll log the last 3 days the KP index of the atmosphere, which is how active geomagnetically our atmosphere has been. And we know the weather data. And so I thought we can correlate that. Then we can go out with a small telescope and a spectrograph on it, which splits the light in the spectrum. And from the spectrum, you can tell the kind of light you're getting. Is it a hot glowing thing, or is it a gas with spectral lines? What is it? I would love to know what it is. I mean, I'd like to unweave the rainbow there, but we don't. We just don't know how to make progress at this point.
With COVID limiting what we can do together, take this opportunity to venture out one night and try to catch a glimpse of the Brown Mountain Lights. Until next time, bye neighbor.
Today we have Dr. Tanya Coffey of the App State Physics Department here to talk with us about her research in the physics department. Dr. Coffey, thank you for being here.
Thanks for asking me.
How long have you been with the App State Physics Department?
Gosh, I came here in 2004, so it's been 16 years now. Long time.
Could you tell me a little bit about your research?
Sure. Well, I'm a physicist, and my specialty is more microscopy, using microscopes to study and analyze materials at the micro and nano scale. So nanoscale means 10 to the minus 9, so 1/1000th of a meter to a millionth of a meter or so. That's the length scales I look at materials on.
Okay. What's the difference between solid state physics and other fields of physics?
Yeah, so my training was in solid state physics as a graduate student. And solid state physics is really just studying materials, studying and analyzing materials. So we're more applied, more materials applied kind of physics. But physics is such a huge field, such a large, so many things can be studied with physics that, it's tough to narrow it down.
How did you know you wanted to get into physics?
Well, honestly, when I was a kid, I was really good at math. So math was always my thing. But as a teenager, I think I honestly didn't know too much about what one would do with just pure math. I didn't know too much about it. But somebody told me, well, hey, if you like math, you're going to love physics. So without knowing too much about it, when I went to college, I decided I would give it a try as a physics major. And so it really stuck. They were right. If you like math, you're going to love physics. It's true.
I'm not good at math at all. So what does the future of your field and your research kind of look like?
Oh, gosh. So, my research, I've always just kind of used microscopes. Honestly, I have to admit, I like the microscopes themselves better than I like any one particular thing that one would use to study the microscopes. I just think they're really cool. I work with atomic force microscopes and scanning electron microscopes, so they look at very, very small length scales. The atomic force microscope is really my favorite. So I've used them to study everything from, the Diet Coke and Mentos phenomena. I'm probably the only person you ever meet that stuck a Mentos in a scanning electron microscope. So I've used them to look at from everything from that to Neanderthal stone tools to organic photovoltaic materials. That's what I'm studying right now. So honestly, as for what the future of my research is, it's just whatever kind of materials somebody needs help looking at and analyzing, that's what I'm going to study. And I'll help out with the analysis on those materials using SEM and AFM, scanning electron microscopy and AFM, atomic force microscopy techniques.
Okay.
So,
could you tell me a little bit more about what you're researching at the moment?
Sure. Right now, I'm working with some scientists at Rochester Institute of Technology, including Dr. Chris Collison. He's my closest collaborator and in this project, and we're studying organic photovoltaics. So right now, the emphasis is to look at improving the efficiencies of organic photovoltaics by studying how the processing of the films affects their performance and efficiencies, and to figure out how their structure ties into all of that. So he makes films, he makes these organic photovoltaic films, he sends them to me, I analyze them on the nano and micro scale, and then we discuss how their structure, what that means, and how it impacts for their efficiencies. So.
What do you think is your favorite thing that you have researched or done in the field?
Gosh, my favorite project. My favorite.
I have to say, in terms of just pure fun, that Diet Coke and Mentos project is right up there. I'm also doing a project right now that doesn't involve microscopy, studying why rubber bands can explode a pumpkin, which doesn't have anything to do with microscopes, but it's a lot of fun. But my favorite part of any project is just being able to sit down at a microscope and actually look at something on the nanoscale. You can't do that with your eyes. The visible light has a wavelength of 400 to 700 nanometers. And so I always just think my favorite part of any project is just sitting down at a microscope and being able to see something that we can't see with our eyes. So it's really fun.
That's really awesome. It's always been super fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about all the questions I have for you. There you have it, an informative look into research in the App State Physics Department. Thank you, Dr. Coffey, for joining us today. Coming up, Isabella talks with Drs. Culpepper and Neufeld about their research in biology and fermentation science. Don't go anywhere.
Hi neighbor, my name is Isabella Riley, and today I'm with Dr. Culpepper, who is assistant professor for the chemistry department at Appalachian State University. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
Awesome, thank you for being here. I know it's a little different, everything being virtual, but we really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and get right in it. Can you tell us about the research project that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my training is in bioanalytical chemistry, and what that means is that we use different types of instrumentation to investigate biological problems.
How long have you been working on this?
So I initiated this project when I started at Appalachian in 2014. So I had not worked on it before, and so the work has been done by all of my undergraduate students.
How is that process going, you starting on this and then becoming a professor and allowing your undergraduate students to work on it? Is it stressful? Is it enjoyable?
I will say it's hands down my favorite part of my job. If I could just do that, for the 70 hours I work every week, I would be, extremely happy. We're just gearing up again. I just came from my research lab, and so we're gearing up with social distancing and the proper PPE with my students, during COVID. And so it is the best time of my job. It is stressful, and, I'm a really, I have high expectations for my students, and I expect them to be responsible for their approaches, but their approach to the project. But it is, like I said, hands down the best part of my job is mentoring my students and working and trying to solve these biochemical problems.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to tell our viewers about your research project, about yourself, your team?
Just that I love my team. I love doing research with undergraduate students. The students that I've mentored and continue to mentor, I love them for life. I went to a wedding pre-COVID of one of my research students in March. It was kind of one of the last fun things that we got to do. And just seeing them, progress in their own careers, and knowing that I have a small part in what they're doing with their lives is just, I'm getting chills, and it cheers me up. And I'm just so proud of what they are doing with their lives. And I'm just so gracious to be a part of that.
And until next time, bye neighbor.
Bye.
It is truly so heartwarming to see professors that genuinely care about their students. Until next time, bye neighbor. That's all for this week. App State students and faculty continue to work to make the world a better place. As always, be sure to stay safe.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at App TV for more student-made content. See you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Until then,
bye neighbor.